Hello friends, enemies, and strangers alike. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'll be going over the 7 books that I read in November. I started the month off by reading a psychological thriller, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This book features the perspective of 2 women who meet as strangers on what is their shared birth date. They are birthday twins. These women seem to come from different worlds. Alex is a wealthy, beautiful, famous podcaster, where Josie has led a more strange and complicated kind of life. After their chance meeting, Josie approaches Alex again and asks her to have her story be featured on her podcast. The book mainly features both of their perspectives as the podcast and their peculiar kind of friendship develops. The book also uses podcast snippets from other minor characters as sort of a framework for the story. This book was a twisty, wild ride. Josie was such a creepy, subversive character. Overall, I gave this book 3.5 stars. It was a unique read for me, and I thought about the story itself long after I finished the book. It does deal with some darker themes like child abuse and grooming, so if you're sensitive to those, that's your warning. I would have had rated it higher if the ending had been a bit stronger, but overall I liked the story and would recommend it to anyone who generally likes thrillers. Next, I read the popular Britney Spears memoir, The Woman in Me. It was a short, compelling read about her story on her own terms. The book covered her childhood, her breaking into the entertainment industry, the development of her music career, as well as her public downfall from grace and her subsequent conservatorship. I enjoyed the book. I felt like even though it was a more surface level retelling of her life, the details that she did include provided a lot of perspective to someone like me who grew up as a fan and then kind of had the drama in the periphery of my childhood. I thought her voice came through despite having used a ghostwriter. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Simply put, if you like Britney, you're probably going to like this book, if nothing else, out of respect for the fact that this is her telling her story on her own terms. But, if you don't like Britney, you're probably not going to enjoy this. Next, I read Legendborn and Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, 2 young adult urban fantasy novels in the same series. These books follow Brie, a 16-year-old girl grieving the loss of her mother after an accident. She is attending a residential pre-college program for high schoolers at the prestigious University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Shortly after starting the program, her whole world changes as she discovers an Arthurian secret society where demons and magic exist, unlocking her own special abilities along the way. This was my first time reading a book that incorporated the King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table lore into the plot. Medieval fantasy isn't normally one of my go-to genres. I actually enjoyed those elements in an urban setting, especially featuring a Black main character. I wish so badly that the series existed for me when I was the target audience for this kind of book. Brie is smart, funny, unapologetically herself, the exact kind of role model I could have used growing up. The representation in this book is phenomenal, and the portrayal of grief was heartbreaking and well done. I gave Legendborn 4.5 stars and Bloodmarked 4 stars. I absolutely loved the first book, and I still thought the second book was a strong contender in the series. I just felt like the middle sagged a little bit more than in the first novel. The only reason Legendborn didn't rate 5 stars for me was some of the tropes I just generally don't like, to include a light love triangle that is more prevalent in the second book. The only people I wouldn't recommend this book to are people that just don't like YA, because this is very much a YA book. It reads like a YA book. If you like YA, if you like urban fantasy, and if you like strong Black female characters, I highly recommend this book series to you, and I can't wait to see what Brie does next. After Legendborn and Bloodmarked, I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, kind of on this fantasy kick. I went into Fourth Wing completely blind, and I did a sort of short reading vlog and review video that I'll link down in the comments below, and then I also did a review video of Iron Flame that I will link after that. These books are heavily talked about right now as they're pretty popular, so I won't spend too much time on them, but in general, if you haven't heard, this is a romantic fantasy series following 21-year-old Violet, who is thrust into this brutal and elite war college where she competes with other candidates for the title of Dragon Rider. I ended up giving Fourth Wing like 3.75 rounded up to a 4, and then Iron Flame 3 stars. If you like romance stories in a fantasy setting and you kind of go into things with low expectations, you might like these books. I would not recommend this book if you have a hard time overlooking plot sloppiness or the use of cliches. Overall though, if I had to describe this series, I would say fun and not that serious. I finished the month off reading Ruth Ware's chase thriller book, 0 Days. This book is about Jack Cross and her husband Gabe, who run this penetration testing company where they're hired to hack into the physical and digital security systems of various companies. When Jack comes home late one day from an assignment, she discovers that her husband has been murdered, and then she soon becomes the police's #1 suspect. Jack then sets out to find the truth about his death and who the actual killer is. This book was unlike anything else I've read by Ruth Ware. It felt very much like an action story dabbling into the techno-thriller category, much unlike her other atmospheric, gothic kind of thriller and mystery novels. I wasn't sure if I would like this book at first, and I almost stopped reading it altogether after the first scene because I didn't realize it was more of an action kind of book. But, I kept going, I gave it a chance, and I ended up being pleasantly surprised. I actually thought this was an interesting, exciting story. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The more that I went on, the more invested I became in Jack and her plight to kind of figure out who actually killed her husband. Who the actual killer was a bit predictable, and I found some of the pacing to be a little bit inconsistent, but if you like chase stories, corrupt police, and a strong female main character, then you might want to give this one a try. Those were the 7 books that I read in November. This video actually also marks my 1-month anniversary of being on Booktube, and I can't tell you how excited I've been that not just one person, but multiple people have been watching and reacting to my content. If that is you, thank you for supporting me. I cannot believe that anyone is interested in what I have to say, but I'm just so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be sharing this journey with you. So thank you, and until next time.